Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the New Year's special of Doctor Who. Holy crap, a great episode. A lot went down in this episode, so let's break everything down. First of all, I liked a little bit of the thing of like, oh yeah, they literally went to 19 different New Year's Day celebrations and stuff like that. They were going to go for an even 20 until things went down on Earth. I thought that was such an interesting story and background that they gave of it being like, oh, here's this unstoppable enemy that had to be split up into three pieces because humanity barely won. A whole bunch of enemies had to come together, and they divided it across the Earth, except that one of the people, the custodians, ended up dying on the way there, but no one knew about it, so there was no future generations like the other two custodians to watch over to kind of keep this thing separate so that it never come back together. And it never once crossed my mind to think it would be a freaking Dalek. The moment she mentioned, I was like, I lost my mind, because it's like, of course, it's literally the Doctor's #1 arch nemesis. I mean, the Doctor's had plenty of enemies, but none have been as arch nemesis like as the Daleks are to the Doctor, because the Doctor is like, oh yeah, like, because at one point she was like, yeah, me and the Daleks, it's personal. I'm like, that is a huge understatement. Even just saying, oh, it's personal, does not describe the relationship that the Daleks and the Doctor have. I even love that when the Dalek met the Doctor, and it was like, the Doctor's like, oh, I'm the Doctor. And if that name ring a bell, the Dalek lost its mind. This thing has literally been on Earth since the 9th century, and it knows who the Doctor is the moment the Doctor mentions it, because this thing's cut off from everyone else. So I'm wondering, does that have anything to pertain with the fact is all the information it downloaded? But I'm assuming it's just kind of like the Doctor is legend amongst the Daleks. So it's like the Doctor is most likely literally the Dalek version of the Boogeyman, which is kind of crazy. Like, because the moment is like, the Doctor is the enemy of the Daleks and must be wiped out. I'm like, yo, that shows you how infamous the Doctor is. And I'm like, that's so badass. Even that moment where, well, I'm going to be skipping around a lot, so I do apologize, but I do like that moment of, like, the Daleks laughing, and the Doctor's like, oh, what's that sound? And they're like, the team's like, what's that sound? And the Doctor's like, I think it's laughing. And then she uses a hologram, and then kind of makes it face her face to face, and she's like, okay, so now do that again to my face. I'm like, no! Look at the Doctor go, that's so cool. And they're just kind of telling the Dalek straight up, it's like, the fact of the matter is, this is to let you know, look, I want you to look me in my eyes and see how serious I am. And this is also for me to reach to Lynn and tell her, do not give up. I was like, that is so badass. That is so cool. I thought that was so nicely done. That was kind of like, yo, it's one of those, like, aspiring hero moments of like staring down the bad guy like that. That was so cool. But that was also an interesting thing, because like this whole element of like the Dalek, you know, because obviously the Daleks have popped up without their cases before, but this is the first time I've ever seen them active. Like, I don't think they ever really did too much when they were without their case, but that kind of shows you, even without their cases, they are still deadly, because they can just take over a human body like that. That was crazy, and kind of control every aspect of you, control your mind and everything. Then it managed to get its hands on its weapon. I'm like, dude, because I mean, that also shows you just how powerful. Because a lot of times, I think, me personally, I always kind of think of the Daleks as being these perfect killing machines just because they're in those cases. But even without their case, they can still adapt and still kill pretty well. I mean, side note, like, when the moment that thing got back in its case is when it started doing a whole bunch of killing. I feel like that's the most you've ever seen a Dalek rack up a kill count in a Doctor Who episode. Maybe that's just poor recollection on my mind, but I don't think I've ever seen a Dalek take down that many people. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's, like, off-screen insinuated, but, like, that was, like, I mean, definitely you saw it blast and cut through all the soldiers. Side note, all those missiles, is that something new it added, or has it always had the missiles? I don't remember that. That has to be new. I mean, to be fair, it downloaded a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, to be fair, like, its new case was based on its original design, so they must have that, but I feel like I don't ever remember them ever utilizing that before, like the balls on their body being missiles, so it must have been something that this Dalek added specifically to its case. I mean, to be fair, it is on a different level than any other Dalek, because this is a this one was sent out for recon rather than others just being plain soldiers. So it being recon meaning it's the first one to leave the planet. This was actually the first Dalek to ever land on Earth. And that was kind of the Doctor's point too. It's like, the fact that matters, you think humans are going to be that easily conquered? Look what happened the moment you landed here. They banded together and they took you down. But it's like, yeah, they tried to kill me, but I'm still alive. And it's like, and the Doctor's like, well, yeah, you guys have a, you can tell it pisses her off even to just admit it. You buggers have a life expectancy like a cockroach. You just keep surviving, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just so interesting when I didn't know what to expect going into this because I didn't watch any trailers, no teasers, or anything for this, but it just never crossed my mind to think a Dalek would pop up. Did any pop up last season? I mean, because every Doctor, like each one of the Doctor, I mean, it's the same Doctor, but each form of the Doctor has to take on a Dalek at some point in time. But it's like, that was just so interesting to me. I also love that side notes to the story of like, get me Kate from Unit. Oh yeah, Unit's no more. Wait, what are you talking about? Yeah, Unit's kind of like on hiatus right now because basically there were some financial disputes, and basically all the other the UK's international partners in funding it pulled out their money, and it's like, wait, what? Why? And even the Doctor's like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, that's crazy. I love that because I think that's also supposed to be like set up for the future too, in case anything ever goes down. It's like, why isn't Earth prepared? What about Unit? It's like, that's such an interesting thing. I wonder, is that no, because it can't just be like a whole, because the Doctor's different now. Well, I say that because it's like, because certain storylines or rather things don't always come back with the new Doctor in certain regards, especially because I think it's like, you could also look at it as kind of like, well, this is a new showrunner, and new showrunners, some stuff might, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, some stuff doesn't always come back over in certain regards, but it's like, no, Unit's been around over the course of 2 Doctors, because it was around during 11 and 12, so that was just kind of an interesting thing. Because I'm trying to remember the last time Unit popped up. Did they pop up? I don't think they popped up at all last season. Maybe it's Series 9 I'm thinking of. Remember, there's that, I forgot her name. It's a lady where one of them was a human, while the other one was the alien that shapeshifts and disguises itself as people, but like they wouldn't tell who the other was, and one of them died. That was the whole storyline about one of them dying and just kind of things kind of, I want to say that was Series 9. That might have been Series 10, but I swear that was like Series 9, so I don't know. So it's just kind of interesting to think that, but that could be future setup for a storyline of being like, oh yeah, let's get Unit rebuilt potentially, because it's interesting, because it's like, oh yeah, when's the last time we had an alien invasion? The operator was saying, and the Doctor's like, we're literally having one right now, which is interesting because you literally had one at the beginning of the season. You've actually had multiple, but I guess because of Sheffield, it's like, oh, nothing happens in Sheffield, so why would we even work? It's just kind of interesting how that ends up popping up like that, because it can't be that long since the last time Unit joined up with the Doctor to be like, oh yeah, we're dealing with an alien invasion. It's literally been 1 season or 1 series at the most. Technically 2, I guess, going back with 9 and stuff like that. But nevertheless, that in itself was just kind of an interesting bit of dialogue. Another interesting aspect of this was the fact is we had Ryan's dad, Aaron, show up. Now, it didn't even cross my mind to even think about that being something that would pop up in this, let alone even next season. It didn't cross my mind to think, oh yeah, like Ryan, that's been a big part of Ryan's story, is the whole relationship with his dad. So of course his dad would pop up. But I love that Graham answers the door and be like, closes it immediately, like, nope. Who was at the door? Must have gotten the wrong place or something like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And the Doctor calling Aaron out immediately, like, oh, you weren't at Grace's funeral. You weren't there when Ryan needed you. You let him down. I'm like, yo, the Doctor with the harsh words, yo. But also, it's kind of interesting, just a little bit of bit of information about Aaron's dad. Apparently, about Ryan's dad, Aaron, because it seems like he's pretty smart, because him and his buddy made a microwave. It's a microwave and oven, not just a microwave oven. Which is interesting, because I always just refer to a microwave as just a microwave, but it is like, its full name is like a microwave oven. Isn't that its full title? So it's like, I guess this is supposed to be something different because it is a microwave, but it's also like an oven, which I don't know. Isn't that kind of like those toasters that they have? But I guess that's their, I don't know, but it's kind of seemed because he's talking about, I guess back to engineering and stuff like that. I'm like, huh. Plus, we found out, he works on a rig and stuff like that, but he left it so that he can kind of rethink his life, and he's still trying to figure things out. But I love that moment between him and Ryan. That was so good of him being like, how are you? And Ryan's like, whoa. You're really going to start there? You don't get to ask me how I am. He's like, I know things have been tough between us. It's like, no. You don't get to say that. It's like, I'm not here to find out how bad things are for you or how you feeling. It doesn't matter. You were supposed to be there for me when I needed you. And it's like, you want to know what to say that you're sorry for everything, that you messed up a lot, that you weren't there, that, that just because you weren't there didn't mean that I didn't deserve your love, essentially. Because even Aaron was kind of, whoa, it's not, why would you, don't even think like that. And he's like, well, of course you would think that. Like, in the sense of, like, him not being around, it's like, oh, so I must not deserve his love, is kind of what Ryan kind of grew up in. It's like, it's sad to grow up with that mentality. Just because, I think in a situation like that you can't help but think, like, maybe something's wrong with me, rather than kind of being the person. And it turns out, like, we got a little bit of explanation from Aaron about why he did what he did, because for him it's like, when you've screwed up, it's already too late to make up for it. And for him, he'd rather run than face it, because it's a lot harder to because it's like, what can you do when you've already messed up? There's no fixing it. So what do you do? So for him, he just made matters worse by running. And every time it would just come, like, more and more stuff will compile, because it's like, I can't face you because I messed up before and now I'm messing up again. But I'd rather, run, because I can't fix what I broke before and I can't fix this. So, but it's like, it's not like you just ran, you hid. Not only with my mom, but also when it came to Nan too. And it's like, dude, that sucks. And that's so heartbreaking. I even love Graham kind of stepping up too, like, and kind of telling Aaron how it is. It's like, you don't know what he's been through. He's like, no, he's like, no, you don't. The fact of the matter is, he's like, I just want us to be family. And Graham is like, family is more than blood and name. It's about what you do, and you, Aaron, have not done enough. And then when he was walking by, Ryan's like, I'll see you later, Gramps. And Aaron's like, whoa, Gramps? Because I'm sure the last time he saw them, it's like, it was Graham and, to Ryan. But it's like, obviously over their adventure, their relationship has changed. And I love that, because it adds this weight to it, because it's like, they aren't blood. They haven't even been family for a long time, because, Graham only met Grace like 3 years ago. But in that amount of time, he's become more family than his own blood biological dad, So I thought that was kind of, because, biology and blood and name aren't enough. Like I said, Graham and Ryan situation, what's proof of that? And you see, and it's just, I like that, because it's almost kind of a little sucker punch to Aaron too. But at the same time, it's that situation of everyone has their faults. But the fact of the matter is, he's here and he's trying. I think that speaks volumes in itself. And I thought that was kind of pretty neat. But kind of going back to what I was bringing up earlier about, like, the Dalek rebuilding its case, I thought that was kind of interesting, because it's like, man, you're able to do that for memory and stuff like too, because I'm sure, like, none of the elements that actually go into making a case for, maybe I'd assume the material is different, like, it just kind of made use of what it could and was able to imply it in a sense of making, like, a case that is, I'm sure, not as good as a typical Dalek case is. But because I was wondering, because it was like, oh, because I'm guessing that's just its armor split up in those other three pieces. Because I was under the impression, like, it was pieces of it, because that's why it never crossed my mind to even think it was a Dalek, because I never thought. I even liked in the book it depicted it as well, but I guess it's a situation of, like, the other two pieces that were guarded were its armor that it was resonating with, or at least, because it doesn't even seem like it was part of the creature itself. Like, the creature itself was hidden by that particular custodian that died. The other two, I guess, had pieces of its armor, essentially. So they resonated, but they never did anything. It doesn't seem like they necessarily went anywhere, because they were different places. One was South Pacific, the other one was in Russia, but those other two aspects never came together. I wonder will that turn into, like, the fact of the matter is, it never came into anything, makes it seem like it isn't flesh. It is more like those were pieces of its suit, because I guess, like, it's tied to their DNA or something, so the moment it activated, it, like, the suit, the case resonated with it. So, I mean, I guess they're there buried, but I guess there's no harm because the doctor never circled back around to deal with them. So that's how I chalk that up. So, which just that whole thing is just kind of interesting all on its own. But luckily, Lynn came out of this alive. I was kind of scared that she wouldn't. I also love Mitch kind of being brought into it. Mitch is like, what? It's like, oh yeah, okay. So the doctor's like, yes, it's, interdimensional, inside's bigger than the outside. It's no biggie. And he's like, yeah, it kind of is a biggie type of situation. It's kind of sad that these circumstances happen right when, like, Mitch and Lynn are, like, having their thing. I'm like, oh, please don't let nothing happen. Because I was like, that would suck. Because it's like, hey, there's characters that we don't really know, but they've already established the fact is that they're just potentially becoming a thing. Because it's like, oh, that New Year's kiss? I didn't know whether that was kind of like, oh, yeah, New Year's, hey, mate. Or was it something more? But it's like, oh, it's something more. And it's like, oh, they were both kind of freaking out about it. I'm like, oh. I was like, the moment she went off by herself, I was like, please don't tell me. And it's like, oh. Okay, so she survived it all. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And she was able to fight it off, too, so. But I do love the doctor when it came to the confrontation with the Dalek being like, the fact of the matter is, I will always be here to stop you. The fact is, I will always be backed up by the best of humanity. And she's like, so, for final warning, because I'm nice and I try my best, go. Leave. And she turns to the other. She's like, I did try to warn him. You heard me try to warn him. They're like, yeah. She's like, so do you think I'm fast enough to do this? They're like, all three of them being like, yeah, maybe so. I don't know. She's like, okay, that part needs to be worked on. Their confidence in her. Has the doctor ever been that, like, I don't know. I feel like I don't remember the doctor being as, like, active, like dodging laser blasts and stuff. Like, I feel like that doesn't come up that often. Like, she was kind of very fast on her feet is what I'm trying to say. I feel like I've never really seen that too much with the Doctor. It's also interesting, too, because the Doctor said this line of, like, oh, I've had to think like a Dalek. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what is that specifically referencing? Because that can mean a lot of stuff. Because I'm like, is that supposed to go back to when she, 12, met with the father/creator of the Daleks back in that Series 9? Or we're talking about the time when you were the War Doctor? But I feel like you really wouldn't have had time to... I mean, maybe there's one specific point it's referencing. I mean, I guess technically you could say that argument could apply to, like, when the Doctor first met Clara back at the beginning of Series 7, because her being a Dalek and that whole situation. So it's kind of like, I don't know. Like, there might be something specific she's referencing, or it could just be a situation of like, oh yeah, just, because because my memory's so terrible because I haven't watched, because I've never seen any original Doctor Who. Plus, I've never gone back and rewatched previous seasons. Only ones I've ever done that for were 5 and 6, but it's been a while. So I don't know whether it's just stuff that she's mentioning in general that didn't happen, or whether it's just... Is it something specific, or is it just being very, like, vague in that regard, So, I also love the medication she gave Lynn being like, yeah, don't drink that alcohol or you'll grow a second head. It's like, well, that was a crazy party. I also love that she kind of pissed off the Dalek and the Dalek got away. So it's like, they're like, did you take care of it? She's like, yeah, kind of, sort of, but it kind of got away and I kind of pissed it off. And yeah, and Ryan are like, Doc, she's like, the doctor, and she's like, oh, come on, guys, those things just kind of hard, to deal with. They're kind of stubborn. So I thought that was kind of neat. I also love that, kind of like, it wasn't just Ryan who had a heart-to-heart with Aaron, it was also Graham, too, because Graham talked about the fact is, he kind of went through a similar situation where when his mom died, his dad packed up all of her stuff. And it wasn't until he got older that he kind of realized, like, oh, that was my dad's way of dealing with things. And then he had packed up all of Grace's stuff and shows it to Aaron, and it was all stuff about him. It's like, when I go, I want people to know, that I did something great. I gave birth to someone, and they are amazing, essentially, and that she's so proud. And ultimately, he's like, so why did you go? Why didn't you go to Grace's funeral? Well, not just for Grace, not just for Ron, but for yourself and for him. And it's like, and it was such a real thing of like, because if he went, it would make it too real. And I was like, I can understand that. I can get behind that. So I thought that was kind of, you know, a little heart-wrenching, you know. And you know, that sentiment is, like I said, something I can understand. But for him, he thought, you know, maybe it was too late. But Graham kind of told him like, no, there's always time. I also love that when the Dalek was sending a signal trying to reach the, you know, others, that it took out all the internet in Britain, and then just Graham is like, on New Year's Day, after everyone's had all that drinking, and just, you know, it just, and Ryan's like, he's such a monster, and then it's like, oh man, you cut to his family, all the Wi-Fi's out and stuff like that. It's like, there's no internet, there's no Wi-Fi. What about Netflix? It's like, what are we gonna do? And the mom's like, I guess we can have a conversation. And the sons are like, what? Which, I get it. That's kind of like a societal jab, because that's kind of who we are. I will admit that is me 100%. Because like, if I don't have Wi-Fi, I'm like, I could go outside and be a person and communicate with people. Ew, gross. You know, it's like, I can understand that, because that's a little too real. It hits a little too close to home. I think that's more so you know, a reflection of society in general. But it's like, I'll admit, I'm in that portion of society where I'm like, what? Talk to people? Talk to my family? What? No! Give me back my internet. So that's just me. So I thought that was kind of nice how that was done as well. There was also this line from the doctor I thought was kind of interesting in this episode too, where Yasmin was like, oh yeah, that's Ryan's dad. It's complicated. And the doctor's like, yeah, always is. You know, dads are always complicated. At least I heard. The doctors never really talked, like, because there's a lot of stuff about the doctor's own upbringing and stuff like that. You get hints at, like, little peeks at in the past, but you've never really dived too deeply into it. Like, Series 11 kind of hinted at stuff that the doctor doesn't know about herself, and just in general, secrets that might still be hidden and stuff like that. So this seems like it might be tiptoeing towards that, because the doctor was kind of like, did she never know her dad? Or was that, like, because it seemed like that was kind of her being like, I mean, I'm assuming, I never, you know, I don't know from personal experience, but it seemed like that was kind of like a, you know, yeah, I know dads, you know, relationship with dads can be complicated, because I had a complicated one too. Or maybe that was just her trying to be sympathetic, in a sense of she's never been in that exact situation. So I'm curious, was it an empathetic situation or sympathetic? I'm curious how that ended, what that really means, you know. So maybe we'll potentially see going forward in the future. But I also like when the doctor stopped the Dalek at first. She was like, way to go, team, gang, extended fam. I thought that was kind of nicely done in that regard. So, but then sadly it took over Aaron, and I was literally scared. I was like, oh man, like, you're kind of on the ways to kind of making things better with your dad, and you're about to potentially lose your dad like this. I was like, man, that's going to suck. But, you know, Ryan reached out to his dad, like, under those circumstances, like, literally a sun going supernova, sucking them up, and just, you know, and he's telling his dad, I love you and I forgive you, and take my hand, and was able to kind of pull his dad in. So I thought that was kind of nicely done. I also love that the doctor kind of gave, like, earlier when the whole Aaron was trying to help out with the whole Dalek situation with the microwave oven of his, that the doctor was like, oh man, you're pretty good. This, you know, maybe this can make up for all your parental deficit. And you kind of would go like, oh man, the doctor kind of stuck the knife in a little deeper, but it's like, it kind of deserved it. So I thought that was kind of neat. But luckily, everyone came out of this alive. I mean, except for the countless people that the Dalek took down, but I feel shitty because I'm like, all the people we got to know are okay. In particular, you know, Mitch and Lynn, which I'm happy about, just because I'm like, oh man, that would suck big time. Like I said, because they had that heartwarming moment of like, oh yeah, and you even see at the end they're holding hands and stuff like that. I was like, I thought that was kind of neat. Also, when Aaron was, they're like, oh, you want to come along? Aaron's like, nah. I'm like, that's cool. Just because it's a situation of like, some people turning down the doctor for a ride in the TARDIS and adventure, I feel like that doesn't happen a lot. I also love that Graham was kind of like, they left me, and he was like, you're going to come pick me up, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot to explain it to you. That cabinet, it travels time and space. And then Yasmin's like, yeah, okay, come on. Oh, you can also come too, but Graham's got to explain everything. And Aaron's staring there kind of frozen for a couple seconds, so they had to break everything down to him pretty quickly. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I do love that people kind of get, you know, acquainted with the situation pretty quickly. So I thought that was kind of pretty dope. But I think that line says it all from the Doctor, where she's just kind of like, I always think I'm done with him, but I'm never, because there's always something more. I mean, once again, this thing has been on Earth the entire time, you know, just, you know, dead, or at the very least in a slumber until it was reawakened. So it's kind of interesting how this did play out, though, because I feel like the Doctor isn't about killing things herself, but it was kind of a situation of like, it can't leave this thing unchecked because there's nowhere to put it without it being a danger. This thing is a danger for any world. So if it's left on any world, it's just going to kill and cause a lot of problems. I mean, the Doctor tried to give it an out, but I think it's like, because that was it. And I think that speaks volumes too, because the Doctor's just trying to give it an out, because it's like, this is its literally one of its mortal enemies. And so for the Doctor trying to be like, okay, I'm going to give you the same chance I would anyone else, but it's like, nah, Daleks will never get the same chance as people typically are. I mean, Daleks have shown to be surprising in many different regards. Obviously, like I talked about the whole Clara situation back in Series 7, but like that was a different situation all on its own. But like I said, there have been, you know, shades of gray when it comes to the Daleks, but it's been not very much. But obviously this situation kind of falls more in line with the typical Dalek situation. So, but overall, like I said, a great episode. Everything was nicely tied up. The Dalek was disposed of like that. So I'm very excited to see. Also, side note, has it always said like the Doctor will return? Because I always associate definitely Marvel movies, but I don't remember if it does for DC movies or not. But maybe it's always done that, because I never stick around after credits a lot of times. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's only Christmas specials. I think it comes up around Christmas, well, holiday specials like this and stuff like that. So, I mean, when we look at it in grand scheme of things, I guess it kind of makes sense, because, like, you know, this Dalek its resolution is to kind of complete the mission that has always been, you know, out seeking, trying to get people under its control and stuff like that. Twice been proven how strong humans and how stubborn humans can be. In fact, this Lynn was able to fight it off, as well as Aaron, you know, even while they were under its control and stuff like that. But like I said, a great New Year's special, just great episode in general. And so, once again, I'm very excited to see what they have in store for Series 12. Like I said when I was talking about the series finale for 11, that it's not going to be until like 2020, apparently, that the next season is going to come out. So I'm assuming the next thing we see will be a Christmas special for 2019. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm assuming. So we'll see in the long run. Maybe things might get pushed up ahead of time schedule-wise, but like I said, we'll see. Because it's going to be very interesting to see where they take a lot of stuff next series, considering the fact is, like, everyone's storylines have kind of been, like, Graham, Ryan, and Yasmin, like, their personal stories, I feel like, have been dealt with. So I'm curious, like, I mean, there's always more to it. I mean, especially like Ryan and his dad's relationship going forward. That's actually something I feel like that doesn't come up a lot. It comes up a little bit here and there, but never a lot with the whole parents playing a role. I guess that's also why that whole, like, Graham being around situation, him and Ryan being related, like, kind of makes that whole aspect interesting, because they are a family and stuff like that. But only person I can think of, like, storyline, like, I know Rose's parents came up in the story, Donna's, Amy and Rory's, definitely Amy's. Maybe I don't remember as much with Rory's. I might be thinking of Rory's and not Amy's. I don't remember. Both their parents in particular, I don't know. Bill's as well. Clara's, I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't think her parents are around. Nevertheless, that's me going off on a tangent. Nevertheless, so like I said, I'm excited to see what Series 12 has in store. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.